And we've got all the right in the world on our side. And there ain't no reason to be afraid. And there ain't no reason to not take the challenge dead on. Because I'm going to tell you who we come from, folks. We don't come from some weak, jellyback, spineless people. That's not who we come from. None of us. And it doesn't matter what color you are, what nation your folks hail from, how much money you got. We all share the same name. We are Americans. And at Bunker Hill, there was Americans. And at Fredericksburg and Gettysburg, there was Americans. And at Iwo Jima, raising that flag on Suribachi, it was Americans. And at Pork Chop Hill, there was Americans. Quezon, there was Americans. And on 9/11, there was Americans who ran towards those burning buildings. That is who you share your heritage with. You do not share your heritage with a weak and ineffective people who cower at the sight of trouble. You share your heritage with a strong and brave people who are determined to hold on to their freedom and for the freedom of future generations. Guys, it's time for us to stand up and be that generation. It's time for us to stand strong and proud and remember who we are. That we are Americans. And as long as we stand as the vanguard of freedom in this nation, freedom will survive people. Not only survive, it will thrive. So guys, it's time to put on our packs. It's time to fix those bayonets. It's time to get ready. We got a fight on our hands. And our fight is not for us. For all those generations that's going to come behind us. Let's save America, folks.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Hey, folks, welcome to the program. We're going to do something different today. That's why everything kind of looks different. I'm going to take you behind the scenes of forensics. You know, a lot of things go on behind the scenes in this fight to secure our elections, right? And many times people do not get an opportunity to kind of see how the work happens, what's done, how do we even investigate these things if an election went wrong? And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you how forensics revealed a ballot stuffing operation. It's one of the things that when you see it and you understand it, right? When you see it and you understand it, there's no way to unsee it. That's why I work so hard on the physical side of forensics, because when you talk to people about computers, let's say, and code and all this other stuff, their eyes just kind of glaze over because people truly need to see how these things work. So that's what I'm going to do for you today. I'm going to take you to behind the scenes. Today's program is brought to you by the fine folks at Goldco. Here's what I'm asking you to do. Just to go to jovanlovesgold.com. That's the site I do with my partners at Goldco. I just want you to request your free gold and silver kit today, because now's the time to protect your money with gold and silver. And by the way, folks, if you've been watching, gold, silver's gone through the roof. But I'm doing this not from the investment standpoint, from the standpoint if you have a 401k, IRA, retirement savings account, you at least need to know why you should consider it and how to protect that money you've been putting away for decades. Okay, a few things, a little bit of cleaning house here. Here's probably the most important thing you need to remember. If the deep state really wanted all hell to break loose and just deliver the final FU to the American people, they could, if they so desired, steal every single major election in America, period. They already have the ammo on the books. You have to understand this. See, when people talk about the machines, it's kind of invisible. To me, that's looking away from the evidence, because the evidence is right in front of your eyes. This is the easiest way to understand what do they really do. Not some mathematician, 6-degree poly abnormal fractal. They show you. Barack Obama had 69 million popular votes during his first term, 65 during his second term. And by the way, they stole that one. When Hillary ran against Trump, administration won, she had 65 million votes. Then they did that 81 million vote FU finger sticking up in the middle to us and just basically ran their coup. Then, of course, they had Kamala come in, and she had 68 million votes, popular votes at the end of the election. However, underneath the radar, for December, January, February, for 1 year and 3 months, so 15 months, folks, they have been adding to Kamala's votes. She's now over 75 million. They have added 7 million more votes to Kamala in 15 months. They do that because they're trying to justify the 81 because they're going to spring it again. Think of how you've been told to look at the machines and look at Serbia and look at Venezuela, and it's this super polynomial whatever. No, folks, it's right in our faces. And they do it by loading the voter rolls with the ammunition so they can do what they need to do with the elections in the paper. It is that simple. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you on a journey. We're going to drop behind the scenes. There are many election integrity efforts across the United States where people get together and try to help. Most of them, I got to tell you, I don't participate in, because if I can't teach, if I can't show you how it works and teach you to do it yourself, it's a waste of my time. Most people get on there and say, hey, here's my new program. Here's my new initiative named after me. Come join, come donate. We have to learn how to fight this. We have to learn how to fix this. That takes tools. That takes tools. So I'm going to take you behind the scene, and I am going to drop you in one of these sessions, and I'm going to show you how forensics revealed the ballot stuffing operation that goes on. That's it. I'm going to show you how this works. So let me gear up my screen. Go here, share screen. You are here, share audio tab. I think this should work. Let me make sure. Hang on. I'm going to go here first. Oop, wrong one. Here first. Oop, wrong one. Here first. There we go. Okay. And now I'm going to share with you my screen. I'm going to have my coffee. You ask any questions you have in chat, but sit back and learn. I specifically teach you how to do this yourself. If you're worried about your elections forwards or backwards, you can do this yourself. I show you how to do it. I show you what to look for. Otherwise, sit back and watch how we are able to detect this nefarious activity, okay, across our elections. Here we go. Let me get started. Get to the screen. Oh, dang. That's not what I want. Hang on 1 second. I did the wrong screen, I guess. Yes, I did. I apologize. I got to go here. I got to go here. Oh, wait. Where are you? Dang it. There you are. Hang on. Let me see if I got this right. Stop screen. Share screen. Go to this screen. Here. Now I got it. Bueno. As big as I can get it. It's not saying a lot, is it? Okay, here we go. In Maricopa. Everybody out there who got cast vote records. This is a snapshot of a precinct in Maricopa. All of the precincts have this information if you know how to get it. You have their total assets, that's the top left. How many are active? You can find out how many they reactivated for any election. This one's 2020, so they reactivated 435. They'll show you exactly how many they're counting as positive and how many they still have as inactive. 622. They'll show you the turnout. Everything in our world relates to the precinct. You only need to know two things. Two things. Now, this is given that you can see the telemetry of the election. You know how many votes are coming in. That's where everybody was attacking the servers. But you only need two pieces of information to make it work, aside from time. You have to know exactly what the count is at any given time. And then you have to know by precinct exactly how many fungible assets do you have, meaning how many voters do you have to tap who have not come in and voted. This is primary what they do with the poll books, et cetera, to know who's there and who's been active. If we were just looking at this, and most people never do this, go backwards in time and look at your data. Why is it important? In Maricopa, when we were told it was an 87% turnout, if you were to look at 16, 12, 8 going backwards, you will find they've never had those turnout numbers. Everything plays by the precinct. I know I'm preaching to the choir. Understand your precincts, understand your numbers, because what we're about to do is reduce this to the ridiculous. Here's how it works. On my screen is a sample of a cast vote record. There are 6 versions of this. Write this down. Most people, when they did that, Michael and Dale get the cast vote records, got the last text file. That's exactly what the county says happened. But remember, if you're doing an audit, you're trying to find out what really happened, okay? So there's 6 versions. The cast vote records begin with the pre-image. That's when the ballot goes in the machine. Then there is the post-image, the image of, okay, what happened in between adjudication. And then there is the text file, which gives it a text version. And there's 2 versions of each. So inherently, when you ask for the cast vote records, if you just ask generically for cast vote records and you don't know what you're asking for, you're going to get the one they certified that they say is real. Now, what you're looking at right here is a post image. This is one ballot header. You're looking at a before and after I want to draw your attention to. Here's why. The ballot is code. And take that literally. The ballot is code. When you have a Tesla car and it's doing automatic driving, it is reading lines in the road, street signs, cars in front of it, etc. It's reading everything around it. I want you to understand, one of the ways to understand what you're looking at is you got to understand that ballot is code as well. Forget the votes on it. That's not what this is about. This is about how can you understand the ballot code to find out what happened. Now, what I'm doing is I'm just pointing out some of the codes you need to look at if you want to find out how well your elections are run. So the top part above that teal line is the ballot header. If you look below, it's the same ballot header, but I have highlighted 3 things. There are 3 pieces of code there you need to know. What is it? Number 1, you see it says EV. EV. That means this ballot is an early vote ballot. All ballots have this. This is an EV code. You can get an EV 2 ways. You can get it mailed to you or you walk in early vote. Now, the left half of the code is the ballot coding that appears on a barcode in the bottom, which is that 70328.00. That's the coding of the barcode. But that middle part, that 328, if you look to the right, that's the precinct. So now you have 2 other pieces of code. You have, this is precinct number 328. The name of that precinct is Jackrabbit. Okay? So now we've gone beyond the ballot. At this point, we don't care what the vote is. We're just looking at what does the data tell us. So in this one, it's telling us they got an early vote from precinct 328, which is named Jackrabbit. I'm going to show you another, just to train your eyes, okay? So you're used to looking at them. Here it is, top and bottom. The top one is the same ballot on the bottom. What do you have on the information here? You can also tell it's an EV, it's an early vote. You can also tell that the precinct is 123, colonnade. 3 unique pieces of information: colonnade, early vote, and the precinct number. Remember, everything in our system operates off the precinct, approximately 175,000 precincts, okay? You don't need any math rhythms. You don't need any of this to understand it. This is just simple data. Now, this one actually has more information on it when it comes to a coding standpoint, far more. Can you tell what it is? From the first 2 I showed you, what's different in this one? Remember, the top and bottom are the same. I've gave you a cheat. I highlighted the bottom. What's different? What's different on this one is it has a color designate. Do you see it? It says purple. See it right there? Plain writing. So this one actually has more information. It's purple. It's an early vote. It's precinct 374, and it's Loma Linda. All of those points matter because now you have multiple things to audit. So what I'm talking about is when you get this data, okay, you're entering just those points. That's all I gave you, just those points into a spreadsheet. Now, can you understand, looking at an original ballot, why this is an important piece of information here? This says purple. You don't see any purple on it, do you? Not at all, but you see the word purple. That means when it was printed originally, most people never get the luxury of dealing with the real ballot, that bar to the left was purple. Here's an example. Now, when you're looking at a ballot in color, you have more code. You see the red printing up there? That's a piece of code. You see that yellow bar on the left? That's a piece of code. Now, what do we know in the difference between these 2 ballots? Well, the one below it is a green. But why isn't that bar green? The reason that bar is not green is because when you walk in on election day, they print the ballot for you on a print-on-demand machines. Those machines are black and white. If this one had an EV on the bottom, if it had an EV versus a ED, and it was black and white, you'd know 2 things. Look up above. See, it says gold EV. That means it literally came in the mail. Why? Because we can still see it in color. When you walk in to do an early vote, and what they do is, you're not using your mail-in ballot. They reprint the ballot for you. That ballot is now in black and white, but you can clearly see this originally started as a green ballot. All of this is information you need to know because these numbers are trackable. I'm going to show you how and why we use them. Now, if you only had the text part of the cast vote record, you could still derive this information. These are the pre-images. If whoever's getting them for you actually knows what they're doing, they'll get these. If you're just scrambling and screaming at a county, give me cast vote records, you're going to get it like this. Now, the information's still there. It's just in different places. If you look at across the header here, okay, you're looking at the tabulator that run it. That's 303002. You're looking at the batch number. It's very important by batch. You're looking at the batch number. You're looking at the number of ballots. If this batch had 200 ballots, this one's number 82 of 200. In that format, it's a TIFF, bigger, different image, and you can see exactly when it came on. But you see how you can still see the same information. You know this was precinct 497, and this was a green ballot. This is what it looks like if you only have the text part of it, okay? Now, in our system, most of you know me and Q codes and barcodes and all my patents for that. We basically created a new type of QR code regarding the precincts. What we did is we took a defined map. That's all of Maricopa there. You do not have to do this. I'm going to show you how to do it very simply. I'm just showing you how far we go first. There are 5 precincts, 5 voting districts that cover all the precincts in Maricopa. And then they're divided into small precincts inside that. If you were looking at any batch that ran in, we highlighted, we lit up the precinct, and you can see it here. It basically makes its own QR code. We can read this. We can look for duplicates. We can look to see if there's patterns we should recognize. Now, if you could zoom up on our maps, what you're looking at here is these are where 4 different precincts collide. You see the gray line, the green line, the red line, the blue line. That's the convergence of basically 4 voting districts. All those little squares and pieces and Rorschach, those are all voting precincts. When you see the call letters that we plot, what we're tracking is every single place somebody can drop off a ballot. Okay, now since this is within a map, within an area, we understand distances. Let me show you why this information is very critical. In Maricopa, there are 100, in all of Maricopa County area, there are 100 plus postal locations. Now, let me let you know what a postal location is. A postal location is a physical United States Postal Service office, okay? If you were to also incorporate, which we did, there were 23 supposedly secure drop boxes, and there were 15 drive-through drop boxes. So we tracked everything. Okay. If you were to consider Maricopa itself, you have to understand the vastness of the Metroplex. Some of you may or may not be dealing with this, but you also have to understand the distances involved. Here's why. In Maricopa, it is 132 miles across from west to east. It's 103 miles north to south. That county, which is the 4th largest county in the United States, 2nd largest group of voting people, covers 9,200 square miles. It's a massive area. You'll see why this becomes important in a minute. Now, through Maricopa, what we're going to talk about here is we're going to talk about how the ballots came in. We're looking at the ballots. Understanding the full forensic audit, we've got the ballots. Some people think looking at the ballots is only looking for the votes. It is not. For our side, we didn't even count the votes. That's not what matters. What matters is, was the election run correctly? That's a maladministration issue. If your election was maladministered, you have the legal right to force the county to show you, no, we administered it correctly. That's maladministration. When you scream fraud, like everybody was trained, it immediately takes it out of the county, out of the state, and bumps it to the State Department. And you know, we had Merrick Garland. The only people in a county that can declare fraud, your governor, your secretary of state, and your attorney general at the time of election. So if you take 2020 and what everybody was taught to say, fraud, 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 this is fraud, it's fraud, 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 that one word canceled 73 lawsuits in succession, because that is the wrong way to prosecute it. It's maladministered. Your job at the local level is only to determine, was the election run properly? That's it. And if you think it wasn't run properly and you think it was maladministered, you have standing to force your local elected officials to prove it was administered correctly. It is under maladministration that you gain your rights. Part of the con of 2020, not get anything fixed, everybody was taught fraud, 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 and that's how they duped us. But here's how we look at this so you understand how this works. Let's take Maricopa County, which is a county that's almost exclusively mail-in ballots. They have been for a very long time. You need to understand how the post office works first. This is about to become very apparent to you. When you drop your ballot in a post office receptacle, it's basically called a two-hop. No matter where that ballot drops, It is going to go to one central processing center. Then it's going to go to the final processing center to reach the final address. I think everybody can agree that the mail-in ballots have the same address. They're going to one place. So if you drop your ballot in Maricopa, you can plot this for your city. It's making 2 stops. Let's trace this out. That means if you went down to your local post office and you randomly stuck in your mail-in ballot, when the post person shows up, they're grabbing all the mail. There's no order to it. They're throwing it in their little bags and containers. They're going to the regional center. The regional center, they're dumping it out. They're running it through all of them to know where it's going. Then it's batch sorted again to head to its final destination, which is basically MTech in Arizona. That's how your mail is handled. Now, half of those mail-in ballots have a third hop. That basically means because of where you are in the city, it's got a third hop. You didn't go to the post office, you went to the box, or etc. So you dropped it in a post box, that's pickup 1. It goes to that post office, that's pickup 2. It goes to the regional, that's pickup 3, before you ever get to MTech. So I want you to understand the process here. If any of you have ever worked elections, if you went to a drop box, you pop off the security seal, you open it up, and just here's all these ballots. They may or may not be in a bin. All you're basically doing is raking them into a bin. If you're somebody for elections, you're counting how many there are. So if you pick up 715 ballots, you're going to say there's 715 ballots. You're going to basically, here's the code I cut off, here's the new code I'll put in, here's my name, etc. It's all trackable. Same with the post office. They're just going to gather them up. They're just going to drop them in. Now remember, batches for elections are different than batches for the post office. Batches for the post office is how is mail handled. Batches for elections is how do we manage the election. And the average batch size for elections is about 200 ballots. That's going to become very important here in a moment. Now, I want to remind you, this is the only evidence left, folks. We can recreate the entire 2020 general election. Every person, every signature, everybody who touched it, every place it went, everybody was involved. This is the only evidence that exists. If we don't hold on to this, getting through 27 in these midterms, when the fights are really going to come, all of this is going to be lost, especially what you're about to see. Let's move forward. This is called a batch. Okay? And I'm going to show you several batches. I'm going to call some things out to you. Now, I developed this particular tracking program to just look at batches by precinct. It is not for voting. Batches by precinct. Okay? There are 748 precincts in Maricopa, Arizona. If you look at this batch, this is batch number 3. There are 3 pages in this report. Batch number 3 had 290 ballots. Look straight down. It says 0.70 early votes. That basically means this is predominantly an election day batch. It's 99.3% election day. Okay? There are 209 ballots. There are 201 precincts reporting. 201. Okay? Now, when you understand how they laid out the land in Maricopa, 748 precincts, they had over 200 voting places you could walk in and not get COVID. When you understand the ratio, we should be seeing about 20 to 40 precincts per batch. We're not. This one, we're seeing 201 precincts in one batch. How we count it here, we give them color bars. You can see all the numbers are the same. All of a sudden you get 6 ballots, then you get 5, then you get 4 at 4, then you get a bunch of 3s, some 2s, and then all of a sudden all we get is 11111111111 for pages. Now, this is why the precincts matter. The majority of these precincts are 100 miles apart. Some of them 80, 90 miles apart from where this originated and got dropped. So you have to ask yourself, why would somebody go to a place you can vote in person, but their actual precinct is 97 miles away? So we chart every bit of this. So what we notice is, wow, this looks like this is being managed. You see it right here. We call it measured rhythms detected. We measured this against things in the past. 97% of these, we're saying something's going on here. Let's look at another batch. Here's another batch. I'm going to teach you how to read it. That's right here. Okay, this is 291 ballots. This one is 3.64% early vote. So again, this is a blended batch. Okay, so it's 96.42 election day, the rest early vote. We see the same thing. We're hitting the same 98% number. All of a sudden, they come in and it just goes 1111111111111 across the board. I'll show you a few more. This is batch 33. We're just going later. This one is 2.17% early vote. 149 ballots in this batch. This one has 101 precincts. Same thing. You hit this weird rhythm based upon where they were picked up or where they came in. And then all of a sudden, it's just straight ones. That never changed, even in the early votes. If it was 100% early vote, it never changed, ever. Never changed. You can look at it here. This is basically telling you that 198 people early voting, dropping in their ballots in this one batch. Somehow, 95% of them came from all different places across the Metroplex, and that batch got there. So the first thing you start thinking about here is go, wait a minute. Are these things sorted in any way? Number one, when the Postal Service picks them up, they do not sort them because they only have one destination. That's the MTech Postal Center. So the local postman doesn't pick it up. All they're looking at is where did it come from, where it's headed by that address. It goes to the regional center. It's dumped in with a bunch more. Never sorted. It goes to the final center before it gets to MTech. It's even more ballots. No sorting is done. Zero sorting is done. Now that's key to this. Let's keep on going. The key part of this is it just keeps on happening. So we try to understand what in the hell are we looking at that all of this has in excess of 90% of every single batch is showing just one ballot spread across all these other precincts, and it just keeps happening time and time again. It doesn't matter what it was. I just went from batch 3 up here. Let's see, this is batch, you can see at the top, batch 3. This is batch 12. This is batch 33. This is batch 9,569. Same thing. Basically, what you have in Maricopa is you have 10,000 plus batches, and every one of them have this same feature in it. Every single one of them have this weird anomaly that somehow they got predominantly sorted, 90+%, into one for each precinct. Now, the mail doesn't run that way. So you understand we have to investigate, okay, how does the mail do this? All those pieces, if they were to enter the facility on the same day and they get to the Postal Service can handle in their sorting machines about 30,000 to 40,000 letters per hour per machine. That's their sorting capabilities. But in these, there's no sorting. They're going to the same place. Now, what they turn around and do is now it's gone through either 2 or 3 hops. They reach in bulk, they grab anywhere from 500 to 700 of these ballots, and they basically put them in a tub, and then they pack those tubs, those trays. There's about 430 to 600 trays for just 300,000 alone. Okay, they just stick them in there. There's no sorting because they're all going to one place. Now, what happens is the batch sorting occurs, if it's going to occur anywhere, it's going to occur at the tally facility. Now, this is where they take all of those ballots that come in bulk, and supposedly they just reach in and they pull out 200. So what we're supposed to understand is they get these big deliveries from the Postal Service. Here comes these tubs. Somebody at MTech reaches in, grabs 200 just so they can manage the load and say, okay, here's a batch. Well, MTech does not sort ballots by precinct at all. There is never a sort. And anywhere in the process, there's never a sort done. And you got 10,341 batches exactly this way. 10,341. What does it mean? Well, basically what it means, now you understand, this is where math does come in. We have made no assumptions. There's no fractal, there's no polynomial, there's no p caps, there ain't crap here. Give me the precinct number, tell me what kind of ballot it was, and where'd you stick it in the batch? That's it. We're not making any determinants about who got the vote, where did the vote go, any of it. It doesn't matter. This is why the paper is the only thing that shows conclusively what happened. And remember, anything you do on a machine to manipulate a vote, at maximum, it's a $1,000 fine misdemeanor. And that doesn't matter if it's 1 or 1 million, it's only one fine. You mess with a ballot, it's a state and federal felony for exactly how many ballots it was done to. That's the difference between the two fields. So when you're looking at this in Maricopa to understand how to do this audit yourself, what we found, 10,341 batches, they all had the same repeating rhythm and arrival and runs. It is within a 0.2 statistical difference. By the way, that 0.2 statistical difference is exactly what Biden won the election by. If we go into it deeper and let the math speak to us, here's what the math says. This is math. And by the way, we've got 3 other very large auditing firms who have now confirmed this. These are not our numbers. These are their numbers now. We handed over all our data, had everything re-audited. Here's what they say. It's called a p-value. In auditing circles and forensics, it's called the p-value. It is what assesses the ratio that this is what happened. The p-value that this occurred organically is basically whatever number to the 10th power with 200 zeros. If you wrote that down, you would write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then you would put 200 zeros behind it to get the odds that this occurred in a natural voting behavior. Now, based on that probability, they know that this has been managed to be indistinguishable. You can only find this if you look at the precinct. This is how you confirm for 10,400 batches, the entire election was managed to a predetermined outcome. But you got to go through every test. You got to go through every single test there is in forensics and mathematics and get them to confirm it. Here are what their confirmations tell us. That greater than 80% of the precincts, 95.21% of these batches, 98,437, were exactly subject to the algorithm we detected. And oh, by the way, there are 2,415 batches where it was exactly one ballot per precinct equally spread to create that batch. They didn't even have variabilities. In other words, it is 100% verified. It's actually called uniform distribution. That's a p-value of 10 greater than 100. versus what you would expect is clumping. If something came from a drop box, you would expect a clump. If something came from a certain area of town, you would expect a clump. None of these get sorted. And so what you have here is these numbers. This is the observed reality of our numbers. I want to give you some scales of how you can determine this. You don't have to rely on anything except just put in the numbers, put in the data of the precinct. It will tell you what's up. Here's the deal. Most people glaze over when they see these. I glaze over. Fisher methods. We had to have binomial tests. We had to have random test runs. We had to have p-values. We had to have consecutive p-values, all this other stuff. Here's what matters. Here is the exact number of what you just saw. It would basically say there is a smaller chance of this happening by pure randomness than there is of winning the Powerball jackpot every single day for 10 billion years straight. That's the odds. That's measured by distance, by how the post office does these, etc. Every one of these things were manipulated. You would have a greater odd of winning the Powerball every single day for 10 billion years. These are the real world numbers. At the end of the day, it's a 1 followed by 11,800 roughly zeros. Just so you understand, this is less likely than every atom in your body spontaneously quantum tunneling to Mars at the same exact time, or that you could likely guess a random 300-digit number correctly on the first try, or that you can flip a coin getting heads 830 times in a row. These are the numbers. This is what's called prosecutable, irrefutable evidence that they changed the ballots. And by the way, you've already had all that data. You've had it for a long time, unless you listen to the people that we were a grift or didn't do a report. This is why they ignored it. You actually see every one of the ballots they inserted in 1 month after the election. So why do I hand you this? This is simple auditing, but you have to understand what you have to audit, period. In this scenario, we do not have to prove who won. If you're going and hitting the drum, Trump won, Trump won, Trump won, Trump won, Trump won, you're already out of the game because you're subject to a different law. But if you show them that the election was maladministered, it was run wrong, it was managed wrong, it was managed unethically, it wasn't handled properly, there's no way they did this. If they mailed these, the mail didn't come in this way, then you open it up to maladministration. This is a low-hanging audit method that any one of you can do. Now, even though I showed you advanced math results, you can go back, you can look at your precinct, you can look at your county. Some of you are nowhere near in the millions as these are. But when you understand you have precincts, and now they're trying to move to vote centers, you understand where to pick up the anomalies, especially those of you that have mail-in and have vote centers. This is why they're trying to get rid of precincts. This is a prime example of why we cannot get rid of precincts. It is the precinct that anchors the voter. If they get rid of precincts and they go to vote centers, this is almost impossible to audit. We have to fight for fixed precincts. We need to fight for smaller precincts. And we need to fight for transparency. Now, very few people, remember, the Maricopa Full Forensic Audit is the only place we physically got to do true forensics to the actual ballot. Very few people, maybe in history, nobody will ever get that again because they're terrified of it. But because some of you can get the cast vote records, or did before half of the states outlawed them, you can go back, you can go to these sites, grab a batch, follow only the precinct, the type of ballot, and the colors. you can arrive to the same place as if you looked at the original ballot. You're not looking at votes. You're just looking at, was it administered correctly? And this is how you can find things that actually prove, well, you had 105% turnout. They tend to hide it in the ballots. Then they'll tell you you're crazy when you try to do it by the voter rolls. But remember, if you stay away from basically saying it was the machines and only deal with the paper tells you exactly what happens. And if that paper tells you for this precinct and this group, you had 105% turnout, you have a case of maladministration. That's how you fight this. That's how you defend it. Folks, this is the only evidence in the world like this. And by the way, I just showed you one of 25 different forensic examinations we did. All of them show the same thing in a different way. This is why they're trying to wait us out. This is why the left attacks us. This is why the right attacks us. This is why they tell you not to listen, because the paper's a felony. This is racketeering at its worst case. They want you to stay on the machines because it's a misdemeanor that'll never get fixed. I yield. Thank you.
Jovan, people.
Okay, so I stopped there. Let me go back. I'm sorry for hacking. I didn't know that my microphone was on. I'm so sorry. Let me do a little bit of a follow-up here. What I played for you is behind the scenes of one of the election integrity calls. I want to be very clear with you. That is not what happens on election integrity calls. Mostly the calls are 50 people, and they'll all tell you about their new program they named after themselves, and here's my book, and follow me, and I'm great. I can't do that. I won't come on unless I can teach you how it works and how to fix it. So don't confuse the two, although Steve Stern does a great job. I take training very seriously. Now, I want to point out a few things for you. Anybody can do this. Anybody. Right now, you can look at all the people, the raccoons, the monkeys, everything else that bragged about having cast vote records. You can pull them down, and you can manually, with your spreadsheet and your computer, that's all it takes, no special computer, no special training, the spreadsheet, only focus on the 3 things or 4 things I showed you. And you can see if your batches were subject to insertions or manipulations. I think what you should notice from this session, hopefully you'll go back and watch it. This is forensics. This is auditing. Auditing is not getting on somewhere, the machines are rigged. That's not auditing. Or we're going to do it. We looked at it and it's rigged. Look at the software. When it comes to software, you lack the ability to technically prove when it happened. You lack an ability technically to prove where it happened. And you have the inability to prove that it was something that somebody did, that it was not a boo-boo, but an intentional act. Now, this is key. I hope you pay attention to this. The system is designed to let people off the hook by saying that was a boo-boo. It was unintentional. We don't know what happened. Now, compared to what you just saw, when it's the physical ballot, you have a date, timestamp, place, tally, and precinct. You have all the information. Excuse me. Because it's a physical object, you have the entire line of whoever was working that signed on the dotted line where they handled that physical piece of paper. That is a physical insertion. That paper doesn't get there unless somebody, a person, physically intends for it to be there. This is why we get a bad rap. This is why so many people avoid our work, because a lot of this election integrity training is to force you to look in the wrong direction, to keep it, and all sides participate in this, folks. Come on. It's a total joke, rig. But they want to keep you away from the prosecutable facts. And as long as you think it's China and you're looking overseas, you're not seeing the physical felonies that puts people away. That's the whole difference of all of this, folks. That's how this crap works. That's how the whole racket works. I don't know what else to tell you. And let me get rid of that. That's how the whole racket is designed. And it's never in our favor. Ask Tina Peters. Sometimes people don't think about this. And I'll use poor Tina Peters as an example. She believed the wrong people. Multiple times, somehow people get inserted that are former FBI or former CIA contractors, and they're going to help. But then you find out they can't testify. And by the way, that was not disclosed to Tina up front. I'll look, but I can't testify. That was not disclosed. That is bullshit covering their ass. But let me compare the two. They convinced her, here's all this stuff on the machine, which a lot of it's there, but it's very hard to prove. But what did the system convict Tina of? Physically touching the machine. Physically giving access. On the electronic side, you never see who gave access. You're not going to find it. You're never going to be able to physically observe when they do something to the machine. For God's sakes, there were over 30,000 in Arizona. And we were prevented from tracking them down because they wouldn't turn over what we needed to track it down. And there was no way to fight it. But you got to understand the difference. She was sold on the invisible, which you cannot prove. She was sold on the invisible, which is non-enforceable. She got convicted on the physicality of what she did. Even in Tina's prosecution, you learn a valuable lesson in how do you prosecute. You got to have a person, you got to see them do it, know they authorized it, and have a physical trail. Part of the physical trail was getting on what we're supposed to see PCAPs, and one of the guys saying, oh, this was probably stolen. I shouldn't take it. What was the physical evidence that convicted Tina? One of those guys that got it, released it on the internet, thus creating physical evidence out of it. I'm not sure why people don't see this. But the exact formula of how you get a conviction is right there in front of you. And you guys continue to excuse it because you can't back up. You can't back up and look at the facts of how this system works, what actually gets a conviction and changes, and what doesn't. So math characters that were designed to smother us by pillows came in, and I think there's a polynomial, and I've been paid to travel to 700 cities to tell people that. Somebody told Tina, hey, you need to meet this math guy with a bow tie. So they make an introduction. Tina says, I don't buy it. Tina says, this doesn't make any sense to me. Tina says, this doesn't happen in my precinct, in my county. That is Tina on the record. But they work on her. Well, maybe if we could just get it, I could test my theory. This is on the record. Dr. Frank saying, well, I just want to test my theory. Tina asked her county to help and to let these guys look. Now, naturally, the county said no. They don't know who these guys are. So the county doesn't help. What do these guys tell Tina? It got released. It's on recording. It's part of what convicted her. Dr. Frank saying, well, we have people that can do it. We know people can do it and they won't know. Shh. The actual admittance of the crime, we will get somebody, basically paraphrasing, under the cover of darkness to snatch it. That came from Dr. Frank's mouth. And because so many people worked on Tina, right? Worked on Tina, she capitulates, right? She capitulates. All these guys that were out there come in, get all the stuff off the drives using Tina's name, all done outside the chain of custody, which is a problem. But now let's look at it on its face. It was this side of the equation that convinced Tina to do it, that actually said to the public, we got it and released it on the internet. Something that shouldn't be released on the internet. Secondly, they dragged Tina along. They convinced her something was wrong. And you know what the kicker is at the end of the day? And you got all these reports, mess of reports, mess of this, mess of that. You know what the kicker is at the end of the day? They cannot show you where one vote was changed. They can't. All they can show you is, well, this was what was here in the beginning, and this is what is here now. And something's missing, because when we check it from the beginning, here's a list, and we check it from here, here's a list, they don't match. All they can say is something is missing, but they really don't know what's missing. Well, when you do an update to anything in your life, you've done it to your phone. What does it do? Puts in new stuff, takes out old stuff. Here's new stuff added, here's old stuff gone. That's a standard process. Now, do I think that was nefarious? Yes. Do I think they were covering their tracks? Yes. But at the end of the day, because it focused on the machines, everything's voluntary by law, and only the good guys went to prison. That's my whole issue with it. Did it move the needle? Did it change anything? Did you show swap votes, who, what, when, where, and how? No. Did you finger the criminals? No. Do you know where it happened? No. But yet Tina sits in prison. This is a reverse of how the system, I believe, used Tina. Under the premise of there's something bad, we got to look. What convicted her were her physical touch points, her physical phone calls, her physical emails, and her physical letting them in. And it's the same in elections. You have to have that. And in that, you have the formula of how to get a conviction. They used the actual formula for evidence, creating real evidence, showing who, what, when, where, and how. And they convicted a good guy with it. I got a question for you. Just a question. How do you forgive that? I got an honest question for you. Tina Peters sits in prison, getting her ass handed to her every day, beat up and everything else. But yet, you give all of the guys involved in her shit, Colonel Son Smith, Mark Cook, Dr. Frank, Mike Lindell, you give all of those guys a pass because they tell you they're patriots and they tell you you're working on it. And because you've had all this media thrown at you and you still support it. Have you ever thought about that? Many of you have never thought about the fact the system used the necessary steps of physical touch, person, place, and thing to convict Tina, which other people created. We've got Smartmatic, whistleblower, Venezuela, whistleblowers, unidentified people doing testimony from a foreign country. You can't prosecute that shit in the United States for what somebody says in a foreign country. You got Dennis Montgomery. Supposed to be all these PCAPs, what we were supposed to see at the Cyber Symposium. CIA asset, can't testify. You got this other guy coming in for Tina, going to look at it. CIA asset, can't testify. How do you not see those patterns? What are the odds? They didn't even use the same CIA asset. They just plopped in another one. How do you not see that? But yet all of you give it a pass. People get pissed at me for telling them the truth about that. And Tina's still sitting rotten in prison. Have you ever been to any poll training where you received information like that? Here it always is. Here's how they do it. Here's how you track it. Look at everything that we have been sold for 5 years from this election integrity bullshit. For 5 years, never being able to show how it's done, never being able to show you the end result, never being able to track it, trace it, show it down to the ballot. But for 5 years, you have gobbled up the gravy that that's how it's done. And not a single person on the election integrity circuit, pillow circuit, or any of that can show you physical proof of what they claim. If your life was on the line for murder, and somebody comes in with a bow tie and said, well, I looked at the 2020 census, I did an analysis of 4 counties in the United States, even though this person's in Dallas, Texas. I looked at their eye shape and size, and I theorized with a 6-degree polynomial, they're guilty. And you go to prison. Would you accept that shit? What even makes you think that's evidence? In any court, in any country. What even makes you think that is evidence in any court in any country? We're 5 years later, and the same thing I've told you from the beginning is exactly what we're dealing with today. I didn't jump to COVID. I didn't jump to this. I didn't jump to Venezuela. It's still the same shit. We're fighting the same exact fight. Also, when you see something like that, you got to understand, you see, the scales of justice work like this. So this is supposed to be Lady Justice. The rule of law is called the balance of probabilities. The balance of probabilities. And it works on that 50-50 scale. Okay, 50-50 scale. When it gets to 51%, it's going to tip the scale a little bit. Now, let me tell you about the stuff I showed you today. I start here. We do every backtracking. We show you the ballots are never, once they're mailed, are never resorted again, ever. never resorted again, ever, by a post person, by the Postal Service, or by the county. They shouldn't be. There's no need to sort them unless you're doing something nefariously. And we go, here's homeostasis. Here's how it works. And these are supposed to be somebody reaching in, grabbing in 200, and let's just run these. And then you start to show the evidence. We got one here that shows this was definitely manipulated. You understand what happens to that scale when I go, well, there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4. And I go up to 10,435 times in a row. You understand what happens to the balance of probabilities. Think about this. This evidence has been out there. Wendy Rogers raised almost $4 million. $4 million. Telling you we'll get full forensic audits across the United States. She raised $4 million. Where'd that go? They're running the others. Where'd that go? The GOP raised several $100 million. What did they do? 12 hours before the statute of limitations passed, they filed several dozen lawsuits. So they could say, we filed all these suits. 12 hours later, it no longer was worth a thing because the statute of limitations passed. Do you think that's a coincidence? Do you think it's a coincidence that the ones that make the most from pillow commissions, like Bannon, he gets 40% of everything? Or gets paid by the GOP to come to their talking engagements, to come to this, to run their ads, to support their people. You ever notice they never cover the paper? Although the GOP did pay $12 million, supposedly to Scott Pressler, to tell you, get that paper in advance and stay away from Election Day. All to keep it in advance. That's mail-in ballots and early votes. Have you ever thought about that? I've always told you from the beginning, audit everything. Audit your lawmakers. Audit your politicians. Audit this. Audit the people that told you the full forensic audit in Arizona was a grift. In this one of 25 different forensic examinations, in this one, there are 10,000 plus. Here it is. How do we get that? How did we know if there never was one? By the way, elections are designed to cross-check each other. The reason you have chain of custody and you have this and that, and you have this one, because you should be able to look at the ballots in, the people in the precincts that checked in, the number of ballots that came in, and the tally cards. All of those should check. An election's designed to cross-check itself. Every one of our forensic examinations, using a different method, confirms exactly the same thing found across every one of them. That's how it should work. But what have we as a nation been told for 5 years? You ever noticed a very interesting thing about my program? I can have somebody like Darren Beatty on way back when, Revolver News. I can reach out because they know who I am. I can say, come on my program and let's talk about your work, not my work, their work. It hits. All of them go boom. But an interesting thing happens after that. I can't ever reach them again. I had one person that I reached out to, a podcaster that I thought was doing great. I put them on. They went gangbusters. GOP got a hold of them, paraded them all across the country. Then he figured out what the GOP was and their racket. And he said, the hell with you. And he walked away and finally told me, It's a concerted effort after I have somebody on. They got to go in and control them because they're afraid they're going to get too much reach. They're threatened. They're threatened. Podcasters, call around to my family, my friends, my clients, my business partners, and everybody I've ever had on my program. Does that sound normal to you? Yes, I've had Mel K on many times. Why? Because we're friends. She knows different. But you understand? Do you understand? The system always outs itself. It's never in our time. We want to know the truth. Fuck, we want to know the truth in 15 minutes. Yeah, you're looking back 5 years and you finally find out the Antifa was a fucking lie. But your mind's forgot. All those people have is yelling, screaming, calling names. He's a fed. He's a fed. He's never. Here it is. Here it is. Did you notice in everything we showed you, we never had to talk about the machine, and we never had to talk about the votes or who won? Did you ever hear in all of the training that you just witnessed this morning? Okay. You looked at all. Did I ever mention Trump or Biden? Dominion, ES&S, Heart Civic? Ever? It's not required. Do you ever have to say fraud? No, it's not required. It's just, here it is. This is blatantly manipulated. And then it goes to one thing. Why? And then, you know what? The other side has to prove it. Because the paper is what the paper is. The machines are all the ether and bullshit. You can never prove. It doesn't matter what it is. Programs can do sophisticated things. Programs can be put on little bitty fobs, stuck into a computer, run a program, and as soon as you pull the fob, it's never there. You forget a program can execute and erase itself, and you still think it's a fucking program, and you can find it. Do you think if people really did it by programs, they're going to leave it detectable? Just a question. Look at what we can do as a society as technologists. I'm one of them. Look at what we can do as technologists and society. Do you still think we live in the old days of modems and hot swap, and there's the program, and here it is? It's vapor. It's non-provable. Fucking the Russians steal some like $50 million a day, undetectable, a penny, nickel, and dime every day at a time. And they can't track it. And you think some fucking idiot's going to dick with a voting machine of some sort and leave the evidence there? And then you never check anybody's credentials. People tell you, I met with Dennis Montgomery. I looked at all the PCAPs. Every one of them were real. I verified every one of them. Then you find out they never had the PCAPs. So that statement wasn't true. What'd they verify? And then when you look at their background, you realize they don't even have the background that would even allow them to verify it. But you never think of that. And then carefully, think of this one. Carefully, you got ex-military guys dropped in who tell you they're security experts. But you know what you can't find? Them and their expertise detailed in system. Why is that? Why is that? Have you ever thought about that? All this stuff we deal with, have you ever just stepped back and looked at the people involved? Can you reach them? Can you verify their backgrounds? Can you see what they've done, what they've built? You go back and see me from the time I was 15 years old. I've been at this shit way too long. But they'll actually tell you, I'm the second most important CEO in the world to Google doing this. You can't find anything. When supposedly they're building the second biggest juggernaut in the fucking world, and a journalist and traveling the world, they're a fucking used car salesman at a used car lot. Have you ever questioned those things? Why don't you? Why will you dig so hard? Why will you dig so hard to fight for elections? Somebody hands you a message. It's the machines. It's a 6-degree polynomial. I swear, I swear, I swear, I swear. You'll even probably start wearing a fucking bow tie. But you'll never audit the people who give you the message. You'll never audit the people who give you the message to say. A lot of them that are involved in this will actually tell you they're former CIA. And you know, the horrible truth of all of this, folks, is our own country did this to us. But it's so hard to grasp that our own country fucked us and that we're puppets. We choose to think it's Venezuela because it's hard. It's easier to believe some evil dictator did it. That's why people believe it. They never want to look in the mirror and go, holy fuck. This whole time, from the Bushes on, me included, I've been voting for the very people that have been destroying my country. And I fucking campaigned for them or donated to them. You can't bring yourself to have those very hard come to Jesus meeting, but boy, you let these people invoke the name of Jesus, you just think they're great. Don't you understand it's all the same con? The only thing I've never done, because it'll be too disheartening, is to tell you who actually will look at evidence and who won't, who refuses. But you can audit it. The one word that did the most damage to all of us was fraud. The second thing that did the most damage to all of us was it's the machines. Both of those things came from one person. Who amplified that? Bannon. Who's never talked about the paper and the actual stuff? Bannon. Who did President Trump run out of his orbit from first time in? Bannon. How can you not see these things? Do you not see that shit? Do you not connect the dots? No, because we don't audit the real world. We accept this real world's going on, and we're going to melt them to prison bars. You can't even reconcile that. The story is at the last minute, Mike Lindell invited Tina Peters to come to the cyber symposium at the last minute. She'll even tell you she didn't want to be there. And then you can't even say, Well, fuck, why is it the FBI showed up on that day that she was on Mike's jet? Made it look like she ran. Then you can't accept the same people around her, and they convince her at the cyber symposium to talk. She didn't want to. But what the cyber symposium that was going to show us all 3,000 counties, we got it all. We're going to show you every county. What did the cyber symposium become about? Oh, let's introduce you to Tina Peters, while the key data guru says, I've been told by my attorney this was stolen. When he's the guy that released the data online that sent Tina to prison for that function. How can you not see that? A certain amount of people will shut me off and shut me down because I'm telling you the truth. The truth hurts. But how can you not see that? You see all these screens of bubbly fucking shit of PCAPs. You got people in bow ties telling you that's PCAPs, and it wasn't. We all know the site it was created from. It's a program that creates fake PCAPs, and it fucking resides on Dennis Montgomery's server. You got to ask yourself two questions. Why would they create fake PCAPs there to show on the show? And why would Dennis fucking Montgomery, the master of the PCAPs, have a program that creates fake PCAPs on his own fucking server? But throwing across, throwing enough God and Jesus and hopium, and you go blind. And you fucking go blind. Why do I even discuss this? And I wasn't here to rant today, but I got to tell you, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of people saying I'm in the fight to fight for election integrity. And then when they show you, that's Jovan, he's a grifter. How small are we? Or you think you're going to learn about how to fix something in your election. Well, here's my next book. Here's my next class. Here's my this. Hey, here's COVID this. How does that help? How does it help? None of these guys will face the fire. None of these guys will come on live. Let's go through the PCAPs. Let's go through it. You show me, like Lone Raccoon, you show me in your Messer report what was changed. We'll go through it item by item. Do you know why they won't do that with me live? Because I'll fucking fillet them. And they can't pull it back. Because once it's out and you see it, you cannot pull it back. So what do they say? Well, not if you control the mic, because you'll just meet me. Okay, if I didn't control the mic, I got some fucking bozo. What's a kinematic? What's an artifact? You a treasure hunter? You're just a grifter. You're CIA. You're a Mossad. They'll never tell you anything about fact you try to debate or talk about. Do you not see this? Which is why I did my program the other day. Are you not entertained? Have you ever sat down and done the math of all these supposedly unemployed people spending their own money? God, I gave up my job as a choir teacher and a math teacher, and I'm doing this, and it's breaking me. Have you ever done the fucking math of what it costs to get to 735 cities over the course of 3 years? Anybody? Tell you they're broke when you don't even know some of the videos they're giving you from their brand new Tesla Cybertruck, and you don't know that? This is what's wrong with us. I can talk I can talk a long time about the system, but I'm telling you, the system's got our number. They fucking know how shallow, how emotional, and how easily we can be manipulated. And they fucking laugh all the way to the fucking bank. They even tell you, for my super defense fund, you've given tens of millions of dollars and we're changing everything. But I'm broke. How do you not see these? It's because we live in a psychological warfare world. It's theater. It's a system that doesn't want accountability. Now, they hope it stops. But see, that's where we got political hopium versus the hopium bullshit we were all served. When it came to it's the machines and we got the PCAPs and we got it all, that's fucking hopium bullshit. But you know what political hopium is? Well, maybe we can fix this enough it won't really affect America, but we certainly can't talk about it. Do you know what the lawmakers are afraid of? They're afraid they got installed. The issue is, when you look at these lawmakers, and I'll use fucking Wendy Rogers as an example. The moment we're getting a full forensic audit, she goes on the road promoting a full forensic audit in all states. Almost $4 million raised, where she paid almost every bit of it to her nephew for marketing costs. But what did we get as a nation? Not a fucking thing. You know our elections are broken. The racket which Liz Harris exposed, that they're paying off these guys' mortgages, it's all under the radar. You get a $500,000 mortgage, they pay it off. Now your house is free. You get another $500,000 mortgage, they pay it off. Now you got a $500,000 in cash and you got a free house. You get another mortgage, they pay it off again. Now you got $1 million cash and a free house. She exposes it. What happens in one fucking week unanimously in Arizona? They write a law, a brand new law, to protect the real estate records of the lawmakers. They tell you they're fighting for election integrity. Some of these guys have millions done in that bullshit transaction. But what they did in lickety split, both sides of the aisle agree, boom, put in a law, you can't get elected officials' real estate records. Why would they do that? And then what did they do? They sacrificed Liz. They ran Liz out of town. Then you get people that come out of nowhere, aren't really that good at what they do, aren't really that interesting, but bang, they got 4 million followers on YouTube. How does that happen? Because somebody went, this is our guy, this is the one we're going to put out there. Bink. They're going to talk about the FBI. They're going to talk about elections, but we can't show. No, they're going to talk about it, look like they cover it, but when it comes to the critical shit, they're never going to do it. And they're rewarded with millions of followers. It is 2026. We're told if we're white, we're racist. But when we want a voter ID, we're told that keeps people from voting. In fact, that's empirically testable. Because you got to have a fucking ID to get your SNAP, your WIC, and your monthly check from the government. You don't get it otherwise. But we are still so behind in an archaic system, we allow that. And then We have such immoral ethics that we know that's wrong, but yet you're on that side of the politician. You just want to fucking win. And you'll repeat it. And you'll repeat it. Think about that. Every single sample, everything these people do to us, it's not hidden in some fucking pterodactyl polygon polyfucking-nomial. It's not hidden that way. They do it right out in front of us, and they just learn how to manipulate the system. You're told if it hits the machine, don't claim the voter rolls. I can say unequivocally, tooting my own horn, my own team's horn, I know more about elections. I've forgotten more about elections than most people know. But do I get invited to Turning Point USA to teach people how to fix the elections? No. The team that tells you don't fuck with the voter rolls, don't mess with them, it's sweeping a dirt floor, that are funded by the pillow, do they get to speak? They do. You know why? Because if you understand the evidence, you begin to understand the system does it to us. Here again, I'll show you again. This is motor voter. This is motor voter. This is motor voter. Look at the blue states. You'll notice the red states are predominantly our battle states too. This is who allows motor voter. Who controls it? The Dems. For the states that don't allow motor voter, look at it. Because it can't be manipulated. We have a red country. That's why you see that map. Right? I'm going to show you one other. Let me just find the right map. Hang on one second. There it is. That might not be the most current one, but it's good enough. Hang on. I got to get my eyeballs on, make sure I see it. Where is it? Here? I know it's close enough, though. Where'd you go? Hang on. Folks, you have it. You see it every day, and people just don't recognize what they're seeing. This is our country. This is our country. This is where they have motor voter, where they drop illegals to the rolls and how they stay in power. All the places where shit goes to hell in a handbasket, crimes through the fucking roof, here's where they don't have motor voter. This is our country. No motor voter. This is who controls it. How do they do it? Motor voter. You have every fact in front of you. Not one person can explain to you, oh, did they fucking leave the machines running in 2025? Did they? From November of 2025 to now, running Kamala up to 75 fucking million votes, did they leave the stupid ass machines running all across the country? No. And this is what frustrates me, because so many people will never sit this long, never sit this deep, never try to understand, and they show you. They try to tell you right now, they're all enraged. If President Trump gets rid of the voter rolls, it's this. If they have ID, they tell you, and you know it. Not one of them mentions the fucking machines. The Dems that filed lawsuits against Republicans for election stuff and won, filed every lawsuit based on maladministration. I know you know this, but these are the things at times it just has to vomit out me that I just think about. I just think about it. because it's so obvious. But the reality is, we're the cure. We're it. Nobody with the bow tie, certainly not a single motherfucker on this planet wearing a cross, Pope or otherwise. Good, solid, faithful, ethical United States of America citizens. You will go to speaking engagements held by the GOP that will tell you it's a 6-degree polynomial, and you don't have the guts to stand up and go, that's bullshit. It's an 80 billion to 1 chance working. And how the fuck do you use it in court? Now tell me about these fucking missing ballots. But we don't, because it's a meet and greet, dog and pony show. And I deal with it nonstop. Even in the election integrity call where I covered this, somebody comes in and chats, start making accusations. That person's ID can't be vetted because it really doesn't exist in the form they put it. But the people that talk to them are long-term Republican activists that are known to have ties to agency and stuff. And they're in everything we do. They're in every move we make, every call we have, every meeting we have. Every time the door is open to fix this, they're to the front of the line. And if they ever think anything's going on here, they pop up like clockwork. Like clockwork. I test this theory all the time. I'm a data guy. So I'll release something and I will watch 4 or 5 accounts and they'll instantly attack me. And they're all saying the same thing. People you know. How does that happen? What are the odds, just like this mail, of that happening? Not only they did it on the same day, they did it all within minutes of each other. How does that happen? This is our country. This is where we live. This is who we are. This is who we are. When we have standards and we understand where the fucking corruption is, like motor voter, we rule our country. This is our country. This is us when we don't fall to motor voter bullshit. But when we fall to motor voter bullshit, putting illegals on, which is the only way they can stay in office, this is what we get. And it's just simple data, folks. I appreciate every one of you. Sorry for going on the rant. I did not intend to. But you know what? Sometimes I just have to vomit this shit out. Or it eat me up. But I will not apologize for the truth. And you'll just have to decide, can you handle the truth? Are you really in this fight? Are you going to buy more fucking pillows or vote for somebody as a governor that's smothered every fucking election? Or are you going to support what really works and put these rat bastards away?
Our courts are based on clear and convincing evidence. Want convictions? Want justice? For what happened in the 2020 election? Then we need your help. Not fixing 2020 will damn our nation forever. The decision you make in the next few moments could decide whether we ever get our elections fixed or not. Here's why. Trump campaign and allies filed 64 different lawsuits. They all went down in flames. 100% of these cases were presented on "It's the machines," or "The machines changed the votes," or "The voting company executive said he would make sure Donald J. Trump would not win." They all went down in flames. Why? You can't bring theories to court as evidence. No supposed Zoom call or 6-degree polynomial math theory or census data is or ever will be proof of fraud. You can't bring theories to court as evidence. Here's why. In both civil and criminal law, the side making a claim carries the burden of proof, and prosecutors must prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Without physical or otherwise verifiable evidence, a case cannot meet this high threshold. Physical evidence is the key. The question is, did anyone get relevant, reliable, provable, testable, and duplicatable evidence of what really happened in the 2020 general election? And the answer is yes, absolutely. The full forensic audit of Maricopa County, Arizona is the only evidence-gathering work which gathered relevant, reliable, provable, testable, and duplicatable evidence of what really happened in the 2020 general election. Evidence so damning that the system, the deep state, and those who pull the strings of this country have fought to keep it hidden and have hoped to have it be forgotten to time. Almost $3 million invested in time, funds, and efforts to unlock that which the system wanted hidden. But now, that evidence is in danger of being lost forever. So if you want what happened in the 2020 election fixed, then we need your help. Please donate to protect and secure this historic evidence. With the 2026 midterms coming up, the system is going to try to lame duck President Trump and then most likely introduce new impeachment proceedings. This is the evidence which will help win the war which is surely to come. We need to keep Maricopa County full forensic investigation and archive secure and ongoing. So if you want what happened in the 2020 election fixed, then we need your help. Please donate to protect and secure this historic evidence. We need your help securing the full forensic audit archives. Don't allow the only testable, objective, and reliable 2020 election evidence fall into obscurity. Millions were spent on getting it documented and tested. This is historic evidence. Not fixing 2020 will damn our nation forever. The historic Maricopa County full forensic audit effort processed 20,895,610 digital and forensic images of varying formats, resulted in 208 million individual evidence-proof files. The system processed over 58 billion forensic measurements, resulting in over 2 trillion individual base computations. No hopium, no hype, just hardcore forensic evidence. Please make sure the Maricopa County full forensic audit archives survive. Donate now. So if you want what happened in the 2020 election fixed, then please donate to protect and secure this historic evidence. We can't do it without you. We need you. America needs you. Our future needs you. Please donate now. Not fixing 2020 will damn our nation forever. Please donate now.